Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to At America, the U.S. Embassy's American Center, with me, Patricia Elizabeth, as one of the e-guide here, and you're watching Finding Your Best University Fit. In this event, we're gonna dig deeper into uncover the perfect academic program for you as you explore numerous top institutions. Let's delve into diverse programs and vibrant campus life to discover opportunities that align with your aspirations and passions. To warm up this session, we have trivia quiz for you who join us via online platforms. And the question is, according to Education USA, there are 5 steps to find your best university fit. What is the first step? Is it A, finance your studies? Is it B, complete your application? C, apply your student visa? Or D, research your options? You can submit your answer to our social media platforms, and if you can guess correctly, you will get a live shout-out from us at the end of this event. And now I will introduce our amazing speakers. First, we have Lauren Humphrey, International Enrollment Admissions Manager, University of Arizona. Can we give a big round of applause? Hi, Lauren.
Hi,
How
thank
are
you for
you?
having me today.
Thank you for making the time to add America. And we have next amazing speakers also, Caroline Darmanto, Education USA Advisor in At America. Can we give a big round of applause to Kak Caroline? Hi, Kak Caroline.
Hi, Trisha.
How are you, Kak?
I'm good, I'm good.
Thank you so much, Kak. And now, before Lauren is gonna present her presentation about our topic today, we have a presentation from Education USA. So, Kak Caroline, the time is yours.
All right, thank you, Trisha, and thank you everyone for coming to Education USA event today. It's always a pleasure to have you all here on site, and for knowing that a lot of you guys are watching remotely. Again, welcome. My name is Caroline. I'm one of the advisors here at America. And before we start the event, before Lauren starts the presentation, I would like to give you a brief introduction of what Education USA is. So if you see the map here behind me, this is where Education USA advisors are located. You can see that we have multiple advisors in multiple cities. In fact, we have 8 advisors in 6 different cities. We have one in Aceh, one at the US Embassy, one working remotely in Jakarta, 2 advisors here at America, one in Surabaya, one in Malang, and one in Makassar. If you notice that we're not available in all the cities in Indonesia, you don't have to worry at all because you can see the QR code and the link right here, like on the bottom right here. You can just scan the QR code. You can also go to the link and set up the appointment, a virtual appointment with any of the advisors in Indonesia. You can pick and choose any of the advisors that you like, that you think will be able to help you best. So you don't actually have to meet with an advisor in Jakarta just because you live in Jakarta, or you don't have to meet with an advisor in Makassar just because you live in Makassar, right? So the very unique thing about Education USA at America is that we are open every day, from Sunday to Saturday, every single day. So at least one of the advisors will be here to help you out. Our office hours is from 1 to 9. Except on Saturday, we're open from 10 a.m. to most of the advisors will be staying here until 6 p.m. And if you listen to Patricia's question earlier today, we are known for our 5 steps, and she was asking about the first step and what was it. So I'm here to give you basically an answer if you don't already know what it is. So our first step here is researching your options. So that's basically what we're here for today. You'll be able to find out. Lauren will be able to give you, a better explanation in terms of like how to find the perfect university for you. But here, this is the very basic step, right? So if you guys are thinking of studying in the U.S., you really need to know which university is the right one for you. And it's not just that. You also need to align basically your, what you want to do, what you want to be in the future. What are, what are the programs that are right for you? Because it's not an easy task to do. It requires research. And it takes a long time sometimes, right? Sometimes you don't even know what you want to do. Sometimes you know you want to study business, but you are not sure like what exactly you want to do in business. Is it marketing? Is it accounting? Or what is it exactly you want to do? So that's why we're here for. So researching your options, sometimes it's not just about the program, it's also the location, right? Some people, they want to know that they're in the warmer climate. So maybe it's in California, maybe it's in Arizona, right? But some people want to experience the snow. So maybe they will choose maybe Wyoming or maybe Michigan. So it's different for from one person to another. And then the second, once you've established what are the universities that you want to apply to, and then we can move forward to the second step, which is financing your options. So a lot of students, a lot of parents, they want to know, like, are there scholarships for us? Is it possible for us to get a scholarship, no matter how much they're gonna get? But they just want to know if the options are there. I guess we all know for grad students for S2 dan S3 ya, kalau di sini we have LPDP and we have Fulbright. But the things that most people are not very familiar with is, what about the undergrad students? Is there a scholarship option for them? Well, that's something that we're gonna be able to tell you also, and how you're gonna find, or how you can find the information. Um, in fact, there are numerous scholarships available for undergrad students. There's one by the government, and I guess Lauren will be able to explain it to you a little better again later, on the scholarships that every institution will provide for the students. Right. So once you know how much how much you're willing to spend for your study, and then you know what are the scholarship options available for you, you can move forward to the next step, which is the step number 3. That's completing your application. This one can be a little complicated. Some people find it a little more intimidating just because there are essays to write, and then you maybe have to curate your profile so that it looks appealing to the universities. Um, and some people don't even know where to start, where to begin. And you don't have to worry, because that's why we're here, right? So we're gonna help you with, reviewing your CV, reviewing your resume. We'll be able to help you provide the guidance on how to write the essays. Or we'll help you review the essays. If you don't know where to begin, then come and talk to us. Maybe we'll be able to help you with the brainstorming questions and ideas, just to help you, just to get you triggered in terms of like how you can write the essays, and what kind of essays you want to write, and what kind of story you want to tell them. But it's not just that. Sometimes a lot of students don't even know how to fill out the Common App. How do we fill out the grades? Because the American grading system and the Indonesian grading systems are different. So that's something that we're gonna help you. We're gonna help you with also. Once you filled out the application, you've submitted, and then you get the good news that you're accepted at a university, or maybe a couple of universities. Then you'll be able to apply for your visa, right? That would be step number 4. That's applying for your student visa. Um, if you don't know what are the student visas available for Indonesian students, we'll be able to tell you that also. And to be honest, I know a lot of students are worried about the application process, or even the interview process, and whether they're gonna get the visa or not. That's something that I get questioned a lot. Like, will I get a student visa? Is it hard? In fact, it's not hard at all. I mean, as long as you fill out the application truthfully and completely, you don't have to worry about it. But just make sure all the documents are ready, because for Indonesian students, the acceptance rate for the student visa is above 90%. So it's one of the highest in the world. So there's nothing to be worried about, as long as your documents are complete, and just fill out the application truthfully. Once you have your visa, and then we'll be able to move on to the last step, which is preparing for your departure. So for preparing for your departure, every year Education USA Indonesia hosts an event called Pre-Departure Orientation. Well, basically the name explains itself, right? We, we have an event. We help you gather with all the other students who are about to leave. It's usually held in around July, end of July. So it's for the students who are going to go for their fall intake. And then there you'll be able to meet the university representative, other students who are about to leave, alumni, or even fellow parents if you are going to take your kids to the US. So it's a good networking event, but it's not just only that. We'll be able to also provide you with the information in terms of what to bring, what not to bring, how can you prepare to live on your own for the first time for undergraduate students. So it would be a very interesting event for you to attend. So these are all the 5 steps that we do at Education USA, and we highly recommend that you follow the steps because then it makes your life easier, right? Because you can't do everything all at the same time. So if you break it down into these 5 steps, it's easier for you. You'll be able to arrange the timeline. You'll be able to set a goal in terms of like what you have to do now and what you got to do next. Um, so yeah, so that's all the 5 steps that we have. And you don't have to be afraid, as I mentioned before, Education USA is here at America every single day. So you'll be able to meet with at least one of the advisors whenever you come or whenever you set an appointment with us. And we'll be with you in every step of the way, right? So having said that, that concludes my presentation. And I do hope that I'll be able to see you in one of the advising sessions very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ka Caroline. So please, if you want to do a consultation about Education USA, come to Ad America. You can meet Ka Caroline and Ka Dinar here in Ad America. So now, what we're waiting for about finding your best university fit. So Lauren, the time is yours.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So my name is Lauren Humphrey. I am the International Enrollment Manager and Admissions Advisor at the University of Arizona. So what is all about your fit? There's a couple different topics that we're going to cover today. Some things that you want to consider when finding your best fit university are going to be location. What support will you have? What value is there in the university? What's campus life look like? What are the academics of the university? And what is the culture? There's a lot of different things that you need to consider when looking at what university might be the best fit for you. The first thing that I want to discuss is choosing a program. There are a couple different things that go into choosing a program. First is going to be your major. This is your primary study. This is going to be what your classes are most fixated on. You can also double major in some cases. At some universities, they will allow you to do 2 majors at the same time. However, this can be very taxing. Your classes are going to be longer. You're going to have to take more at once. So something to consider if double majoring might be a good fit for you. Another option is a minor. This would be a specialization. So your major study is your main program, but a minor is something additional that you can add on to your program and take a few additional classes to learn something that is more specialized in your field. We also have areas of concentration. You'll see some programs have more specialization required. For example, a really popular program right now is cybersecurity. We have a lot of students that are really interested in this program, and it encompasses a lot of things. So some concentrations in cybersecurity might be in forensics. They might be in business. There's a lot of different aspects of this study, and so you will see some universities offering some concentrations as well. If you are nervous about what to study, if you are not sure what major might be a good fit for you, just keep in mind that many students do change their major, especially in their first year. You will see a lot of students starting in one subject and finding out that they were really interested in one specific course that they took and switching their major. So this is very common. It's acceptable at our universities to change your major if you find something more suitable for you. You will have an academic advisor at your university or college that will assist you with choosing a more specialization or minor and changing majors if you need to do that or if you would like to do that. If you are really unsure where to start, you don't have any idea of what major you would want to focus in, some suggestions that I have are to think about what interests you. Do you have a hobby, something that you like to do outside of school? Who influences you? Who is someone that you think of as a hero or someone you look up to? What do they do for work? What do they do in their free time? Is it something that is interesting to you? And what is your passion? What is really something that you find very interesting? You can also think about the classes that you're taking currently. Do you enjoy physics? If you really enjoy physics, maybe you would want to be an engineer. If you don't like physics, then maybe an engineering degree wouldn't be for you. So think about what classes you're taking now in high school, what you find interesting, what around you is piquing your interest, and you can find majors and areas of study in that field. Looking at majors and professions, some things to consider is that your major of study is not the same as picking a job. So you want to consider the job that you want to have after you graduate and what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. Your major might be very broad or it could be very specific. So you want to look at your field, what you might be studying. There could be multiple majors for multiple career paths. So it's important to do your research to determine what major would be a good fit for the type of job and profession you'd like to have after your graduation. Also, important to think about, where do you see yourself? There are a lot of geographical locations in the United States. You will experience all types of weather. So, do you like cold weather? Do you like warm weather? Do you want to experience snow? Do you want to be somewhere where it is raining all the time or somewhere where it is sunny all the time? In the United States, we have deserts, we have mountains, we have beachfront locations, we have landlocked locations. There are a lot of different options in the United States. You also want to think about, do you like cities? Do you like somewhere rural in the countryside? Do you want to be somewhere that is small in size or large in size? There are a lot of different things to consider when you're looking at specific location for your studies, and this can make a significant impact. If you are someone who is very used to the warm weather of Indonesia and you decide to go somewhere very, very cold, it might be a big adjustment. So it's definitely something to consider where you're looking at studying. Is it in a large city? Is it very populated? Is it walkable? Is it safe? These are good things to be considering about location for where you're going to be studying. Also, things that you will want to look at when choosing where to study in the US is the type of university or college that you will study at. We have public and private university types in the United States. Public universities are situated with the state that they are located in. So there's typically state funding, there's community resources, there's a lot of collaboration with that state. Whereas private universities are typically religiously affiliated or affiliated with a certain individual or certain funding from a different source. Public and private universities have different benefits. Public universities might have scholarships from the state, whereas a private university might have funding from donors and alumni. So be looking at the universities and colleges that you're considering. Are they public? Are they private? What benefits come with each of those options? There are also different specializations in a university or college themselves. We have research institutions where they participate in public research. A research institution might be more hands-on learning. You might be working more closely alongside your instructors to do projects, whereas a liberal arts university is, as it sounds, focused on the arts. And so you're going to see more offerings in those liberal arts type of programs. We also offer 2-year and 4-year programs. So we offer community colleges where you'll take 2 years and then transfer to a 4-year university to finish out the rest of your program. We also have universities where you can complete all 4 years at that same university. So just a lot of other options to consider. Choosing your type also goes into what is your best fit. A really big topic that we hear about a lot is rankings. Do rankings matter? There are a lot of factors that are not included in rankings, such as, will you make friends? What type of clubs and organizations are involved in the campus? Rankings are really focused on reputation, research, but they're not going to take into account the culture of the university or the offerings in that location. Do they have food there that you might enjoy? Do they have clubs and activities that you would want to participate in? So rankings don't always matter. High rankings might not be a best fit for you. So don't always get stuck on the rankings. Look at the university or the college as a whole to really determine where is going to be your good fit. So something that we should talk about is what makes a university selective. Some universities have additional requirements for admission. Some of them are very selective as to what students they will take in their programs. And this really comes down to reputation for some universities. We all know that our Ivy League universities have a very selective process because of the high reputation that they hold. But available seats in programs can also be impacting how selective a university might be. If a program is very popular and there's not enough seats in a classroom, then they might have to be more selective for how many students join. At a lot of our universities, we also want to make sure that you get that faculty experience, that you're working with your professors, with your instructors, face to face as much as possible. And if we make our classrooms too big and too overwhelming, you won't be able to have that interaction with your instructors. And there will be less availability for research and projects if you're competing with a large class of students. So we do determine some selectivity based upon just availability and how many students we think can be successful in one class in one major. Another way that selectivity can come into effect for a university is financial aid and scholarships. This is why it's very important to pay attention to deadlines, because some universities and colleges only have a certain amount of financial aid or scholarships available to them. And so you want to keep this in mind as you're making your selections. How many scholarships does this university offer? Am I going to be able to receive one based upon how many students might be applying to this university? So keep in mind that selectivity does play a hand in finding your best fit university. I also want to talk a bit about admissions review and kind of some common phrases you might hear associated with the admissions process. Something you will hear university representatives talking a lot about is holistic review. What holistic review means is that we are not just looking at your academic performance. We're not just looking at your report card, your grades. We're looking at you as a whole. So this will take into account extracurricular activities. It will take into account your personal statement to see if you are overall a good fit for the specific university or college that you are applying to. Holistic review is very beneficial to many students because it doesn't just help you find the best fit, it helps the university find their best fit students as well. We want to see a match where you are going to fit in well at the university and be successful, And so holistic review helps us determine if you are going to be successful at our university. Academic comprehension is also a common phrase that you will hear in the admission review. We want to make sure that you have completed the number of courses and the types of courses that we require for admission. So make sure that you're not just reviewing the GPA or the overall grade requirement for a specific college or university, but you're also making sure that you've taken the correct number of subjects for that university. Some universities might require 4 years of math in high school. Some might require 3. Most universities want to see a certain number or specific science courses to make sure that you are going to be successful in your major, in your program. So consider looking a little more in depth beyond just overall grades into what specific courses you need to have taken to be admitted into a university. Guaranteed admission is also a popular topic. You might hear certain universities talking about a guaranteed pathway. Not all universities offer this, so you do want to discuss with the university and colleges of your choice if there is a guaranteed admission process, if there are specific deadlines for that process, and if there are any additional supplemental documentation that you might need to submit for guaranteed admission. Some universities have specific deadlines, some have rolling admissions where the process continues on up until classes start. So it's good to also look into not just what you need to provide, but by when you need to provide those certain documents and your application. Another really important topic when finding your best fit university is campus resources. All campuses provide some level of resources, but some might be more important to you than others. One that we should talk about is health and wellness. A lot of universities will have a health center on campus. This can be very helpful for our students as you are adjusting and you have those resources available to you. Some universities have a complete pharmacy available on their campus where you can fill any prescriptions that you might need. Others might require you to go to an additional location for your pharmacy needs. So look into what health facilities that they provide. In terms of wellness when it comes to exercise, we also provide recreation centers at our universities and colleges. So it is good to explore what facilities are provided. If you are someone who loves to play basketball, do they have basketball courts available? And are they a close location to where you might be living? It's good to look into those types of things to make sure that they have the offerings that you are going to want within health and wellness. Especially important for your program is going to be labs and research facilities. If you are studying a STEM degree in science, technology, engineering, or math, you're going to want to make sure that they have labs and facilities for you to do research and the research that you would be interested in. Most of our colleges and universities have our lab facilities on our websites. So you can go and you can look at photos, you can look at what research is currently being done and see if it's of interest to you. This can really help you connect with a university and see what specific things they might be doing in that STEM program that you might be interested in. Food options is also another very important part of where you're going to be living and what's going to be a best fit for you. Are you someone that wants a typical canteen or cafeteria style eating option? Or are you really excited and looking forward to Chipotle and Chick-fil-A and some other fun American style food options? Do you want sit-down restaurants or do you want fast casual eateries? Look at the food options that are available at the university or college that you're looking at to see if they fit your needs. You'll also want to take into consideration dietary restrictions or religious restrictions based upon eating? Do they provide what you need for that? Are there halal or kosher options? Are there gluten-free or vegan or vegetarian options? And how accessible are those for you? These are important factors when determining if the campus you're looking at is going to be a good fit. Another topic related to campus life is going to be student organizations. There are a lot of different student organization types. You'll have cultural organizations or religious organizations. We also have Greek life, so sororities and fraternities. Some universities offer sororities and fraternities and some don't. So if you're interested in joining one, you'll want to make sure that the university you're looking at does offer that option. There are also a lot of professional student organizations that you might want to join, especially if you're in a business program or an engineering program where it's very important to connect to other students and alumni in the same interests as you. So look at the professional organizations that they offer to see what might be a good fit. Most universities will publish how many clubs and organizations they might have, and even a list of what currently exists. So it's good to look through that to see if you're finding the things of your interest. Another thing to consider is that a lot of universities will allow you to start your own club or student organization. And so you might want to see if that's an option, if there's something that you're really interested in doing that might not be as common or might not be as popular, but you're wanting to start something new. Student housing. This is a huge topic when looking at where you might want to live. There are different housing options. There is guaranteed housing and there is optional housing. Some universities might require you to live on the campus for the first year. Others might want you to live on campus for 2 years or even all 4 years of an undergraduate degree. So it's important to look at what is required. It's also important to consider what resources they provide for housing. If it is guaranteed, what resources and facilities are there to see where you might be living? If it is not guaranteed, if it is optional, do they provide resources for off-campus housing? Are they going to assist you with looking for facilities and apartments to live in around the campus? Is housing accessible? Are you going to be able to walk to your classes every day? Looking at housing is a big part of finding your best fit. Roommate choice and hall choice is something you should also consider. What does the roommate process look like at the universities you're considering? Some universities and colleges have a roommate matching system where you fill out a profile and you list things that are important to you, and you will include when you wake up in the morning, what time you go to bed at night, and it'll help match you with somebody else so that you're a good fit to be living with. There's also a lot of different types of housing options and roommate selection processes. You might have one roommate, you might have two, or even some flatmates or suite mates. And so look at the options for housing, what type of hall choices they might have. Another thing to look at in terms of student housing is what is available to you within that housing facility. Do they have study rooms available? What does the security for the building look like? Is it a key card system? Are you going to be scanning into the building? Do they have access, security access? Do they have those types of things that might be important to you? And Jen, just one tip for student housing is residence life, RAs, are available in our housing facilities for you. You will have a resident assistant who lives on your floor. There's someone that's there to make sure you're adjusting well in housing, that if you do get locked out of your room or the building, they'll be there to help you. They also really help with getting social interaction with others that are living in your building so that you can make friends. And if you decide that that sounds interesting to you and you want to be a resident assistant, you can even get free housing. So it's a great thing to look into if that sounds like something you would be good at. All right, now let's talk about money because money matters. There's some very important topics here that we'll cover. First one being financial aid. What is financial aid? This is important to look at. Some universities and colleges will provide financial aid and assistance to students, and some won't. So it's important to see what options the university or college that you're looking at provides. Financial aid assistance can come from the government, it can come from the state. There are a lot of different options there. So you'll want to work directly with the university because the process will look different for everyone. But there are a lot of different funding options. There are scholarships, there is financial aid, there are loans. And so you want to look at the different options that you'll have. It's also important to look at how to apply for aid. What does the process at these universities look like for financial aid, for loans, for scholarships? Are there supplemental applications? Are there deadlines associated with the process? But really, a really big important piece is financial expectations. You do want to really keep this in your mind as you're looking at universities and have the conversations with your family about what you can afford and what need aid you are looking for and what is going to get you to the university. So have those conversations very early, have your financial expectations set. So while you're going through this process, you can weed out what universities and colleges fit your financial expectations and which ones don't. First, let's talk a little bit more in depth about financial aid, what that really is. There are multiple different types of aid that we can discuss. First is going to be merit-based scholarships. Merit-based scholarships are scholarships that are awarded by the university or college based upon your academic performance. Typically, the higher your grades, the higher the scholarship amount. Merit-based aid is most commonly automatically awarded with your admission to a university. Typically, if you meet the expectations academically of the university, you will receive your merit-based aid, your scholarship, with your admission, and so you'll automatically know what the university or college is offering you. But there is also need-based aid. Need-based aid is an additional request for scholarships. Some universities offer this and some don't. When it comes to need-based aid, there's most typically going to be an additional application or some steps that you need to take to request this. There's no certain amount attached to need-based aid because it is how much you need. And so you will discuss with your advisor at the university to see what they can offer you for your ability to attend that university. There are also grants. Grants are coming from donors or government sponsors, which is money that you don't need to pay back, but it is very different than a scholarship. So grants might also be an option depending on what university or college you are planning to attend. We also have loans. So loans are going to be money that you are loaning from maybe a bank or an organization or the university that you will need to pay back at some point, typically after you finish your program. Something that's very important to consider with loans is that there is interest that is typically calculated with a loan. And so the amount that you take out in the beginning will be more after your program ends because it will be collecting interest as you go through your 4 years at the university. So make sure that if you are considering a loan, you are heavily doing research to make sure that it is a good fit for you and that it is a good loan option. Scholarships. Scholarships are super important. So I talked already some about merit-based aid and need-based aid, but there are a lot of scholarships that you can apply for. The scholarships that are automatically given by the university are typically going to be those merit-based scholarships, and they'll sometimes provide you resources for need-based. But there are also a lot of other scholarships that you can apply for. There are regional scholarships, there are department specific scholarships, there are scholarships for diversity and for the programs that you might be studying. So definitely ask for what scholarship options the universities and colleges you're considering offer. Typically, we have supplemental scholarships that we can provide you links and access to look at those. A lot of us will have a platform where you can see all of the scholarships that we know are available to students. You can see which ones match with your profile, which ones might be a good fit for you. Something that's important to consider with these other scholarships is they do typically include an essay. So our merit-based scholarships, there's not typically an essay associated, but additional scholarships that you might be looking into will have essays included. There are so many resources out there where you can look at different scholarships. I've listed just a couple websites here. Our team at Education USA is more than happy to provide resources for scholarships as well. But here are some very common websites where you can search for large platforms that have a variety of scholarships that you can apply to. I really encourage you to take some time to apply to as many scholarships as you can. Even a small scholarship amount, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 US dollars, might not seem worth it, but if you apply to 10 scholarships, then you might end up with $10,000, and that's a lot of money. So it's important to take the time to apply to as many scholarships as you can, and this will really help you build up some additional funding for your studies. Most universities and colleges will take as many scholarships as you receive. So you can continue to look into scholarships and apply. Even after you start at the university, you can continue to look for more scholarships. There's always going to be that ability to add more funding, more scholarships to what you're currently having for your studies. How to apply for scholarships. There's some different ways to get this done. Some are offered at the time of admission and they don't require any additional steps. Some you might apply for them. There might be an additional application. Some even require you to do a short interview or an essay with the university. So keep this in mind. Scholarships that are awarded by the university might also be awarded in different ways depending on the university that you are attending. Some might solely be looking at academics. Others might be looking at a holistic review. They might be looking at your essay. They might be looking at your extracurricular activities. So ask these questions of the universities. How do they review for scholarships? What's going to be the most important for your scholarship application? Are there deadlines that you need to consider? This is all very important to make sure that you get the maximum amount of scholarship available to you. Setting expectations. Expectations for scholarships and for financial aid is an important topic that we should talk about. So I've talked about this a little bit already, but very few scholarships will cover all expenses. This is very important to know. Full ride scholarships to university are hard to come by, and they're typically very competitive. So you're not going to be able to go to just any college or university and ask for a full ride scholarship. It's not something that's very common or widely accepted at most universities. It's very far and few between. You can also consider a loan, but really look at options in your home country as well. Taking out loans in the United States is a more difficult process. We can assist you with this, but if you can find funding elsewhere, that might be more favorable, a better option for you. International students cannot apply for US bank loans without citizenship, so it's not always going to be an option based upon your current situation. It's also really important when you're setting your expectations to make sure you're applying really broadly and avoiding wait lists. Scholarships and loans, depending on the university, might have a minimum or a limit. So the sooner that you can do these things, the more funding that's going to be available for you. It's also important to look for affordable options without a scholarship. If your grades, if your GPA isn't matching minimums for scholarships at our colleges and universities, you can look into alternatives like community college, which is a lot more affordable than a 4-year university, or online programs, or programs that have a partnership with universities locally. There are a lot of different options there as well for funding. So if you're not meeting scholarship expectations, if you're not able to look into loans, ask for what other options there might be. And really just have that honest conversation with your family about how you're going to finance your studies, what you can afford, and what you need from the university. Now let's talk about how do you apply to the university. This can be a daunting task. We think of essays, we think of all the different things that we might need to provide, but it's really simple as long as you follow instructions. First and foremost, I would say apply broadly. Apply to multiple universities and colleges. Don't just apply to those few top names that everyone wants to go to. Have some additional options as well and really broaden your search. You can have some of those top, best picks in mind, but also have some others to fall back on if you don't meet qualifications or deadlines from your top choices. If you are applying to a reach school is a school that might be very well known and popular and you aren't sure if you meet their qualifications, then have some additional universities in mind. Make sure you apply for schools that are really meeting your academic profile. There's going to be financial aid and scholarship competitiveness at some universities, so having a large list to choose from will help you see where you're getting the most scholarships, what is going to be a good fit in terms of finances and academics. You might see some universities have an unpredictable admissions review. So you might apply thinking you're 100% going to get in and you don't. So it's good to have some options to fall back on instead of just applying to one school. But on the other side, you do want to limit your number of applications. You don't want to apply to 30 or 40 or 50 universities. That would be way too many. A really common number, I would say, is 10 to 15. It's a larger number, some good choices, but you're not overdoing it. Just make sure that you have a backup plan when your first choice doesn't work out so that you're prepared for where you're going to go. Okay, now let's talk about you got an offer. Very exciting. You have some choices. But now what? What do you do next? Most important thing to do is wait for all of your offers. You might be really excited that you got into one university and now you say, okay, that's where I'm going. But if you applied to many, if you have multiple choices, wait for all of your offers to come in so that you can compare them. You're going to want to look at how much scholarship they're offering you. Is the program exactly what you wanted? So don't jump on the first one. Compare them, see what options that you have. Most of our decisions need to be done by May 1. So you'll have some time to decide as your acceptance letters are rolling in. It's also going to be important to start preparing your financial documentation at this point. All of our colleges and universities will require you to show some proof of finances for the visa process. And so that would be the time to start looking at what you're going to need, what the universities or colleges require for financial documentation, and what steps you'll need to take. It's also important to choose based upon your criteria and financial situation. So, looking at those scholarships, looking at the loan options, this will help you choose what offer is going to be best for you. And look at opportunities. Are there on campus employment offerings? Do they have other resources and support to you? So once you get all those offers, that's really when all of these details about finding the best fit are going to come into play. You can do a comparison and determine which one is best for you. We're coming to the end of my presentation. So just one more tip that I'd like to give you here is all of this information might seem overwhelming. It might seem like a lot to consider. So I highly suggest using a table or a list to start tracking this information. So as you pick your 10 or 15 universities and colleges that you're considering, you can start listing a checklist of the things that are most important to you and checking off the list if they have those things. The one that has everything checked off, then you'll know that's the best fit and that's where you'd like to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we give a big round of applause to Lauren? Thank you. Lauren, by the way, we have a drink over there if you wanted to drink it first.
Thank you.
Because I remember back then when I was in senior high school, listening to your presentations, back then I want to be a diplomat. But so I took international relations major. I didn't see any other options, so I chose university back then because of one factor only. But listening to your presentations, there are a lot of factors that we should consider. So while many students who watch this are deciding of what colleges or universities they want to go, but they are thinking of every possibilities and turns out still confused. That's why we have our amazing speakers here, Lauren Humphrey, speaking from the perspective as International Enrollment Manager, and Caroline Darmanto, speaking from the point of view as an advisor and also who had experience studying undergraduate in the United States. So anyone who watches are Indonesian, and of course they had experience senior high school, undergraduate, masters, and they want to pursue next step to study in the United States. And of course, Indonesia and United States have a different systems according to educations. So Lauren, what is the U.S. grading systems and how are grades determined in U.S. universities?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the grading system in the United States is GPA, grade point average. We utilize letter grades, A, B, C, D, E, and F. We also utilize percentage, so 1 to 100%. Depending on the college or the high school that you're attending, you might see a difference there, but we all utilize GPA. So for example, an A is the most amount of points, an F is the least amount of points. And so we calculate an average to determine what your GPA might be. The highest GPA is a 4.0.
4 point. Okay, how about you, Colin? You experienced senior high in Indonesia and undergrad in United States. So is it different?
It's different, as Lauren has mentioned before, right? And I think what's very unique is that the U.S. universities, they don't just grade you based on your exams or your
Right,
homeworks,
right.
right? So it's how often you miss the class, or how often do you participate in class. That is counted into the factor as well. So I think it's something that I want to say most Indonesians are not used to, because here we take the test, we do the homework, we could get an A, but that's almost impossible in the U.S. So I think that's also an adjustment that most Indonesian students, or maybe most international students, need to make when they get there. So yeah.
Okay. You want to add
that's a
anything?
great point. I was going to say that typically in most classes, participation makes up 20% of your grade. It can be anything from raising your hand in class to making sure that you're putting a lot of effort into a group project.
Okay, so it's a different, but I think it's not hard to do a adjustments when you go to the United States.
Exactly.
So when you talk about it's all about fit, one of the factors for your presentations is academics. So let's say other factors is check, but this university have a standard grades for acceptance. So as an applicant, should they still apply or withdraw their applications?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, for universities who are looking at solely academics, if you don't meet the minimum requirement, it would not be worth your time to apply. We don't typically allow students who are below the minimum admission, so it'd be better for you to look for a university where you fit the minimum requirement.
Okay, so Colin, as an advisor, do you meet your advisee in that situation?
I do, and I actually have a question for Lauren as well
Yes,
regarding this.
sure.
Um, so, because we promote holistic application, right? So we usually tell students that while most universities do I guess review it holistically, sometimes we also need to pay attention to what specific requirements each university will have. One of the problem I think that we encounter here because we have such different curriculum compared to the U.S. So let's say for an example, one university asks for a minimum of 4 years of English or maybe math, but maybe the high schools here they don't offer 4 years of English, and maybe they only have 2 or 3. Now, as I guess as an admissions officer, how do you review that particular application?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's where people like me come into play in international admissions. Most universities, what you see on the website might be for domestic applications. They're very used to the US system. And like you're saying, they might not know that an Indonesian curriculum is going to look a little bit different. And so, us as international admissions advisors are there to advocate for our students so we can teach our processing teams, our individuals who are doing that GPA calculation, conversion, to know what is common in the country and what we might find acceptable. We do make exceptions here and there depending on country requirements. So it's always really important to work with the admissions team at the university, the international side, to see what requirements there might be. Some options, if, for example, you need maybe 4 years of math and a student hasn't taken 4 years, is conditional admission. Some universities will do a conditional admission where they require you to take a specific math course in your first year. We also have placement testing where we might ask you, oh, let's take this math test to see if you've studied in the subjects that we need, and then you can meet the requirement. So there's some options there, but it's definitely working alongside the universities to make sure that admission is possible. When we look at transcripts, report cards from Indonesia, and it's not the curriculum that we're used to, we typically do a conversion. So we look exactly at the grades with a conversion scale and recalculate that for GPA. So when there's missing things, it's typically a conversation about how we can make it work.
So you will still encourage the students to apply, right?
I would. I
Okay.
would in most cases, or at least have a conversation with the admissions team
Mhm.
to see if we would recommend an application.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. After that, talking about a fit program, talking about choosing a program, you say that students will change their major at least one time during their studies. For me, who experienced senior high school in Indonesia, this is a new thing for me, and I think for high schoolers, also new insight for you, because as a person who experienced undergrad in Indonesia, I choose international relations major. I cannot change my major in the middle of my study, in the middle of my semester. Of course, I can change, but I must start from the beginning. So can you tell us what is the procedure if students want to change their major
Yeah,
in the United
absolutely.
States? Yeah.
It's a great question. So, changing your major, there are some different components to consider. You can change your major at any time at universities in the US, but there are some things that might happen if you change your major, such as additional time required. So, as you're mentioning, if you're in a certain program, there's certain courses that you need to take. So, if you were to start out in maybe biology and the sciences, and then you change to like an international relations program. They're very different, right? So a lot of the classes that you took in biology would not apply. And so it's almost like a wasted time. You might need to go start from the beginning to take all now international relations related courses. But there are courses that you would utilize in any program, our general education courses. In your first year in university, it's very common to take a lot of general courses, such as an English, a science, a math. And so we recommend students that if they're going to change their major, to do it in their first year or at the end of their first year so that they're not missing out on taking courses that they wouldn't need in the new program that they change to. Otherwise, if you were to change your major in maybe your second or third year, you might end up doing 5 or 6 years at university, which would add time to your studies.
Thank you. Colin, do you change your major back then in the US?
No, I was pretty firm with what I wanted to do. So
Really
I didn't
firm.
get to change my major.
So, what is your suggestion if your advice is still not sure about their major, Colin?
That's a good question. So, I mean, I get asked this a lot, right? Because a lot of high school students, they just don't know what they want to do. They don't know what they want to become in the future. So, my advice would be one, if you're really unsure with what you want to do, you can always, as Lauren has mentioned before, maybe go to a community college first, right? So you don't actually have to declare your major, and you get to explore a lot of things, a lot of studies, and then you'll be able to decide before you transfer to a university. The other option that I would say to them is that if they are very sure with where they want to go, or maybe they kind of have a picture of what they want to do, but they're not very sure, I would usually tell them, to explore what they're passionate about, right? You mentioned this also before. Just so that, just in case they want to change their major within the first 2 years, they'll be able to change it without, I guess, changing it too much. So it's
Right.
not like psychology to quantum physics, or it's
Right.
not like engineering to education. So that's usually what I tell the students, because we don't know what's going to happen. So even if you're very sure with one thing, and then you experience college for the first year, and then you think, "Oh, I want to change it. This is not for me." It could happen, right? No matter how firm you are. So yeah. So if that happens, I would usually suggest them, if they want to change it, not to change it to like something that's very different.
Right. Yeah. Definitely helps with not adding more years to the program if it's
Yes.
at least similar.
Because it's going to be affect with your scholarship and everything if you
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, move to determine your interests. Let's say I'm a student athlete or I'm a national champion for classical music. If the students want to make that as their power to apply, is that just narrowing down their options, or all universities would consider that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It definitely would narrow down options. There are going to be some universities that are very well known for athletics, and there's going to be some universities that might not even offer athletics. So it would have a narrowing down effect. Same thing with music or classical studies or anything in the arts realm. Not all universities are arts focused. So you're going to want to look at the differences between, as I mentioned, a public university versus a private university, or a research institute versus liberal arts. It would really narrow down from there if you want to focus in something that you're super passionate about.
Okay. Colin, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, for both arts and student athletes, it's going to be quite different compared to like regular students, right? So for arts, you'll have to build a portfolio. Sometimes you have to do an audition if you're, let's say, you want to study theater or music. So you kind of have to be a little more certain in terms of what you want to do for the specific majors. And for athletes, it's a different route, because then you have to spend a little more time speaking to the coaches. So it goes through the recruitment process instead of the admissions process, or just admissions process. And it's different, because then also you need to figure out whether you want the scholarship or not, because not all athletic departments actually offer scholarships, right? So it's different. It's interesting. It's definitely something that you can use as a leverage to get into a university, but you also need to know that it's quite different. So you need to know how much time you need to prepare and what are the extra, I guess, the extra aspects that you need to prepare as well.
Okay. So after these questions, maybe I'm gonna give a chance to people coming here to give questions. So talking about majors and professions. So you must know that majors gonna take after you brought up your major. Let's say, for example, again, me, I wanna be a diplomat. So I can take major in politics, law, economy, English literature. So you open up a lot of options for major and to universities as well. In that situations, what's the ideal application for students? Apply as much as you can, or let's say pick three and focus on that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think making some choices is more important. If you are applying really broadly to a lot of different majors, it might cause you to get more overwhelmed, maybe a little bit more confused about where you want to end up. So I always suggest looking at, if you have a job in mind, what did people who are doing that job major in? What is popular in that field right now as a program? That can kind of help you narrow it down to maybe three or four options for a major. But it's also good to consider that every university and college might have a different name for a major. So you might hear, I mentioned cybersecurity earlier. Some universities call it cybersecurity, some call it cyber operations. You'll hear some universities say business management, some say business leadership. So I would look at the content, maybe not the exact name of programs as well. So when making choices, you definitely want to narrow it down, but be open minded.
That's nice. Be open-minded. So what do you suggest, Colin?
So for me, what I tell the advice is that again, you might change your mind in the near future, right? Even if you're very sure that you're going to be a diplomat, um, the chance of you changing your mind is always there. So keep in mind that when you're studying, especially in the U.S., you even if you declare a major, let's say you want to study international relations, you'll still have to do some other courses as well that may not relate to what you want to study. So the knowledge is there, right? So it's fine with whatever majors that you decide. My only advice is I just make sure that you get the knowledge, because at the end of the day, it's applicable to pretty much anything. And so it doesn't really matter. While it's good, keep in mind that things can change. You can also change your mind. Just get the knowledge, and I think it's gonna be good anyways.
I'm agree to that because in the end of the time, you can see a lot of options, a lot of job opportunities that maybe not align with your major when you're in university. So I open up the questions to the floor. Okay, one question from, yes, yeah, betul. You first.
Check, check.
Can you state your name and what is your question, sir?
Okay, thank you. My name is Wicak, and I'll try to ask about the application. As we know that you mentioned the holistic approach, which the university will see the personal statement on the academic performance. And my question is, does the university have the weighted percentage, such as maybe the personal statement will contribute to the 50% of the scores, for example, or it will be different based on the each assessor from the university? Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, Lauren?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that I would say it definitely does depend on each university and college how they might weight the personal statement. But from my experience and really overall, it's not a certain percentage for the application. Typically, when we're doing the admissions review, we're looking at the personal statement as part of a holistic review to see who you are as an individual, why you might be interested in the program or the university, to make sure that you're a good fit overall. So it's typically supplemental to your academics, to your transcripts. We're looking to make sure that you meet the minimum requirements for the application, and the personal statement is like the cherry on top to see that you are a good fit for the university as an individual.
Colin, do you have anything to add on?
Um, Not really, because I think
Yeah.
it's specific to the university. But all I can say is that a personal statement is important, right? Because that's the only way that they can hear your stories from you. The university can hear stories from you. So um, I agree with Lauren. It is the cherry on top. So my advice is never ever spend just 1 or 2 days on the personal statement, because that happens a lot. But I usually don't encourage that from anyone.
Okay, so let's move on to question and answer from online audience. We have from Ryan from Facebook. When researching about scholarship and university options, I tend to get overwhelmed with the abundance of information accessible on the internet. Do you have any tips to overcome this?
Yes, I do. So, a big tip for me is to not be afraid to reach out to the university's admissions teams directly. It is our job to talk with students. So, if scrolling through all the information, if trying to find different details on the website is overwhelming, the easiest thing to do is to send one email or make a phone call or schedule a virtual session with the advisors at the university and have a conversation. We can talk about exactly what you're looking for. Instead of doing the search, you can ask us directly if we have the things you need. And so then you don't have to spend as much time searching on the internet.
Colin.
And what I want to add is a lot of universities does virtual sessions, webinars, or even in-person seminars such as this one. So if there's any university that you're interested in, don't forget to come, and then you'll be able to speak directly to the admissions.
Okay, so before I get back to the offline audience, talking about international students, it's a common when they want to get a master degree or PhD, they already have a family. And so, what are the requirements for traveling with dependents? Do universities have a program for it, or what do you suggest, Lauren?
That's a great question. I think the biggest roadblock, the biggest challenge when bringing a family to university is going to be the visa process. There are additional steps that you need to take to bring dependents with you. Some universities have specific housing in place for families, and some do not. So, again, it's important to do your research there on what housing and what programs might be offered if you are bringing a family for a master's or PhD program. Every university is going to offer something different.
Okay, so what is the best solution for it, Caroline? I think advice here always asks
Yeah,
about this.
I do get that a lot. I agree with Lauren. The most important thing is that the visa process. Make sure that they're able to get the F2, J2 visas. But at the same time, if you are going to the U.S. with a scholarship, make sure that this scholarship grantee, actually accepts that you can bring your family. So I want to say before we get to that part, make sure with the scholarship provider as well that you're able to bring your family.
Okay, so moving on to admission review. When people who want to take master's or PhD, how important is it to align their major with their job experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, again, it will depend
Yes.
on the university, of course. You'll see this trend. We all do things a little bit differently. But it varies in importance, I think, depending on the field of study. For example, if you are trying to do aerospace engineering, you need an engineering background to continue in that program in a master's or PhD level. But if you studied business and you decide you want to get maybe a leadership or a marketing or a communications master's program, because business is broad, you would be able to join one of those programs. So it really depends on if it's something in a very specialized technical field or not.
Okay, Colin, is it one of big questions and concerns from the advisee?
Yeah, well, I get this question a lot. If I study a particular major, let's say, I study, let's say communications. Can I take a business major after that for my master's? Uh, the great thing about the US is that you can do that. Cross major is fine as long as it's not a very specific major, as Lauren has mentioned before. So if you want to study aerospace engineering, you will have to have the background, right? There's no way around it. But let's say if it's communication to business or business to maybe communication, then it's fine. You'll be able to elaborate that. Connect the dots on your CV or resume and the essays.
Okay, so questions from offline audience? Yes, please.
Uh, Hi, my name is Brigita, and in this time, I would like to ask. Uh, so, when finding the best university fit, we must also consider career opportunities that we might get after graduation. I have heard rumors that international students who studying in the US would only have a couple of months, if I'm not mistaken, about 12 months to look for a job in the US. In, in a lot of cases, international students from Indonesia would be lost because of their nationality and the complexity of working visas and sponsorship stuff. Is that true? And could you elaborate on how hard is it to get a job in the US for international students after graduation? Thank you so much.
Okay, Lauren, ready to answer?
Yeah, that's a great question because we're going to school for our career, right? So it's very important to consider your career options after graduation. I would say to some extent what you're mentioning is correct. It can be difficult, it can be overwhelming, but part of what the university does is support in your career explorations. We have career advisors at our universities who will start working with you in your third or fourth year to prepare for applying for jobs. You can receive job offers before your countdown for your visa starts, so you can have some options ready to go. Another important way to get connected is through research and internships, which are going to be available to you throughout your program. So you can start to get some of that experience with employers. We have a lot of international students who will do internships and then continue working with that same organization after graduation. So it's an easy transition from that point.
Do you have anything, Colin?
Yeah, I agree with Lauren. So try to talk to the career centers at the universities. They'll be able to help you out. But other than that, if working in the U.S. is something that really interests you, try to find schools with co-op programs, right? So co-op programs is you'll be able to experience work during your studies. And then after that, after you graduate, you'll also be able to apply for OPT, the 12-month extension for you to work in the US. But if you're a STEM major, then you'll be able to extend it even longer. So try to look into these options before applying to the schools, because it's a part of the research, right? Trying to find the schools or the universities that fits you best. So yeah, look into those programs as well.
Okay, I think one last question from the floor.
Thank you for your opportunity. My name is Shiva. And because you mentioned before that it's important to consider major that will be a good fit to pursue career, I want to know, is there any internship program for university students? And is it possible to be student and applying to internship program at one time? And is there a penalty from the campus if we kind of mess up with the classes? Thank you before.
Thank you. So is it possible, Lauren?
Yes, yes, it is possible. So there are some regulations and stipulations with your visa around what internships you can have. So it's important to work with the visa officers at the university to determine your options. For example, any jobs off campus are going to need to be in the field that you're studying. So internships are going to need to be directly related to your major, to your studies. But it is absolutely possible. A lot of our students do internships. especially in your third year and fourth year. It's very common in that time. Some students even do multiple internships. You can have, one year and a different one the next. So it's definitely an option, but you do, as you mentioned, need to keep up with your academics. So it is important to make sure that you can manage both at the same time. We wouldn't want to recommend an internship if you start to see your grades slipping.
Colin?
Yeah, and also remember you will have an academic advisor at the university. So when you start noticing that your grades are slipping down, or you get overwhelmed with the internship as well, talk to them because they'll be able to help you out, and you won't. So hopefully you won't get a penalty. You won't get into the academic probation before you get there. Talk to the advisors.
Already answered? Okay, so maybe for the closing statement, what did you learn from studying in the United States, Colin and Lauren? And what is your message to anyone who wants to pursue their next study to the United States but still not sure or afraid to go study abroad? Colin?
Okay, I'll start first. Okay. So I had a good experience. I had a good time. For me, I feel like going there, it's not just all about the academics, but it's about like, being independent, living on my own for the first time. So I got to navigate a lot of stuff, right? It's how, what do I do when I get into a problem? Like, how do I solve it? So it's not just all about academics. It's about you, I guess, it's about being creative as well. And, they really challenge your critical thinking. And that's what I like about it. My advice is that if you have the opportunity to apply to go there, do it. I guess really just do it. Whether you get accepted, whether you go later to the U.S. or not, I guess that's a different story. But I guess open your mind to go there, to explore and to study there, because it's going to be a good experience. It's a lifetime experience. So yeah.
That's great. Lauren?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Caroline. I think that studying in the university or college is more than your academics. You learn life skills that are going to stay with you for the rest of your career. You learn how to be independent. You learn time management. There's a lot of really important skills that are gained in your time at university. Advice from me would be very similar. If you have the opportunity, please do it. But no, there are so many resources out there for you. You have so many of us rooting for you, providing you with tips and tricks. So never hesitate to reach out for help. We are all accessible to talk through the application process. And when you come to university, you will have student services advisors, academic advisors, counselors, a team of trained individuals surrounding you, helping you succeed. So it is definitely possible.
Thank you so much. I think that's a wrap. Can we give a big round of applause to our amazing speakers today? Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Kak Caroline.
Thank you.
Yes, so remember, this is not about the best others to see, but the best for you. Good luck to find your best university fit. Earlier at this event, we have trivia quiz for you who join us via online platform. And the question was, according to Education USA, there are 5 steps to find your best university fit. What is the first step? And the correct answer is D, research your options. So congratulations, Ray Indranugraha from Facebook, who is the fastest one who can guess correctly. The last, if you have interested to do any collaboration with us, you can visit our website, www.atamerica.or.id, click collaborate with us, and submit your greatest idea. Also, to keep updated for our next amazing events here in America, you can follow our social media. We have on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, AT America. With that, my name is Patricia Elizabeth, and see you at the next At America events. Bye!